Welcome back to My Child and I, where we get together every week to look at how can we better raise our region's children. And this week we're taking a look at the World Wide Web. Do you know where your children are? And to help us discuss this topic today are Jillian Hassel, IT specialist, and information security specialist David Gittens. And there's no story more powerful than a true story. In our very first episode, Ruth Hode, who's here with us, and her husband Chris shared about their son Ted, who they felt was becoming addicted to the internet. We're going to take a look now. For those of you who may not have remembered that story, we're just going to take a short look, a flashback at Ted's story.
What we found, however, with Ted especially going on, was that I guess his time, his focus shifted as he grew, and he just was spending more and more time playing games on the computer. And unless you actually physically removed him from that environment, that's all he wanted to do. He stopped playing his sports. He just wasn't interested in a lot of other things.
What made us concerned was the number of hours that he started spending on the computer. Everything was geared towards, I need to spend time on the computer. It wasn't just, I would like to spend time. It started to be a need. And what we tried to do is balance that, try to reduce the time, and he would be okay for a short while, and then he would start to vibrate. Literally start to actually get excited about, I really need to be on. He'd start telling me more and more about the games and more trying to engage us in the game on why he needed to be on the game. He started developing friends around the world on the game. So he started joining teams of people. And so they started picking times on which to do campaigns. And so he started watching the clock. I need to be on the computer by 6:20 this afternoon because we are having an invasion. And so it started to be, instead of just general time, it started being specific time. I need to be on the computer at this time. It went from I want to play with it to a need. I need to be on there. They're depending on me to play the game. And that was when we started thinking, what is that?
He would get very cross, and if you absolutely banned it because you know, whether for punishment that they were in, they were banned from computer or something, he'd go in his room and he'd thrash, and he would really, it was a very physical manifestation of what he was feeling. And that started to be concerning to us, that we started to say, okay, we need to do something more than just say only 2 hours a day or only an hour a day or not during the week or whatever it was.
One of the challenges is who to approach in Barbados. And we have really not gone too far with it, right? We've talked about it internally, but we've not actually reached out.
We've talked to a couple of guidance counselors. Yes. We're very open in the family about talking to Ted about it. He's aware of our concerns. I think he sort of understands them. But as I said, as you would talk to anybody who's addicted to anything, they can understand what you're saying. That does not mean that they have the capacity to change the behavior. And so that's what we had to start to look at. We've done some research online. We've been chatting with him. Our eventual conclusion, I guess, was that we recognized his need for the screen. So we decided that we would work from a platform where we understood that was him. He liked being on the screen. He's good at electronic things. He's good at the games. And so possibly what we would do is we would try to turn the computer into a more positive element in his life.
I often ask Ted when I'm driving with him, what's happening with the guild, where are you doing, and just to listen to what he has to say about it, and the ideas that come out, and it becomes real, and he feels like he's accomplished something. So it's not a hidden addiction, it's right out in the open, talking about it. So take it realistically, so that you can find out what they're doing, what their processes are, and who they're talking to.
I guess I just find that I wouldn't do it in real life, more for fun, really. Like, I understand that I play it a lot now, so I've been trying to cut back, but it's just so addicting, I guess. Yes, I do agree that it is a problem if you play it. Like, I know this guy that was online all night, all through the day for 24 hours. And that's just crazy. I would never do that. That'd just be stupid, I guess. But yeah, I do agree that sometimes they just don't get what you're actually doing.
all, you have to be involved in your child's life. You have to know what's going on, and you have to, as a parent, be willing to give the energy that's required to bring your child to adulthood. It's frustrating for us. Like I said, if I drag Ted off the computer, he will come and do things outside. He's happy to play football or cricket outside with us as a family. He's happy to sit and have puzzles and games and all those kinds of things. But we have to make that effort. And I admit, I'm guilty of it quite often too. I have a busy life and I don't always make the effort, which is probably why he got to the stage that he got to, and I would like to have thought that I would have taken a more positive initiative earlier. But that sitting around and beating myself up is not going to help. I have to realize this is the situation now, what are we going to do about it?
Ruth, 8 months later, 8 months later, where is Ted? How are things going with you?
Well, actually, it was interesting. I was speaking to Ted's sister on the way here, and she said, well, I hope you're going to tell him he's on the screen all the time still. But she said that. However, Ted has now actually transitioned to a school in Canada. He's been living with my sister and going to public school there. And he's in a tech immersion program. So he is spending probably as much time on the screen as previously, but in a more positive role and environment. All of his homework is done on the computer. He's been asked to come and tape the live streaming of the school's basketball games and things like that. So he's using just as much time on the computer probably as he was before, but it has turned itself around, and instead of being a negative, I need to be there to have this gaming experience, he's actually outside doing lots more things, and he's really finding that the computer is now a positive influence in his life.
Mm-hmm. You know, it was interesting, but after we spoke, after we did our program, there was actually a program that I saw from the US on a young man who was facing the same type of experience, and of course they were identifying it as addiction.
Right.
And recently there is a cyber psychologist here in Barbados now, Ronaldo Bernard, who was saying that, you know, people are saying that addiction or internet addiction is not real, but actually, if not caught in time, it is very, very real, which I think was your experience. Coming out of this, what advice would you give to parents about maybe not being too naive, but yet not being too overly concerned or protective? What would be your advice to parents at this point?
I think two things: be informed and be involved. And that's our children are not allowed any type of game or interaction on the computer unless we know what they're doing, and we come and watch sometimes. We're in the room, we're actually there, put the computer in a very public place so that you can see what's going on. There's no secret passwords in our house. Passwords have to be open to the entire family, and get on there sometimes. Actually sit and watch and play and understand and talk to them about it. I think being open is the most important thing.
And I think following your journey and your process, nipping it in the bud, but I think not taking him away from the computer,
right,
but turning that into a positive. What do you think probably allowed you and Chris to take that direction, to kind of come to an agreement that, look, what we need to do is to see how can we stream him into something positive?
Well, I think for us, with all of our children, we look for what they're interested in. And that was Ted's thing. It was very clear. He's good at it and he enjoys it. And so we saw that as part of his personality, and we were not going to try to change him, mold him into something that he wasn't. Having said that, we certainly were going to make sure that he had some guidance. We are his parents. And so I think that was it for us, was that we recognized this was part of who he was. And so now how can we deal with that? That's our underlying, that's the structure we're going to work from. And we will go forward in making sure that it's enhanced in him as opposed to something negative in him. And so it wasn't a matter of just pulling back and saying, you can't do this. It was saying, how are we going to do this differently and better for you in the long run?
Well, Ruth, we can only wish you the very best. We can only wish you and Ted and Chris and the entire family just the best, the best. As you go forward, we just hope that later on when we'll hear more great things about Ted. And thank you so much for sharing your story, not just today, but the very first My Child and I.
Thank you very much.
And at this point, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to the IT experts and now help parents who may be facing the same thing that Ruth was facing 8 months ago. Do you know where your children are?
This is the unfortunate event that damaged the house of the family that is insured with United. Homeowners insured with United Insurance don't need to worry about what will happen after a disaster strikes, because they know that United will always be there, helping them put things back together again by providing insurance for houses and contents. Don't worry, you're in safe hands with United.
We are on Facebook. Join the growing Carib Vision community today. Go to www.facebook.com/Carib Vision. Be a part of our online family, whether you are located in Canada, the USA, or even farther away. Carib Vision is about what it means to be from the Caribbean, our culture, our lifestyles, our voices. Log on or switch us on. Carib Vision.
Hello, I'm Francine Charles, the host of My Child and I, where parents, teachers, and the wider community get together to look at how we can better raise our region's children. Well, we are now on the World Wide Web at mychild&i.com. Keep track of the program, get all of our healthy tips, and find out about conferences in your area on My Child and I online at www.mychild-and-i.com.